Okay, it says we're live. I can barely see myself because the sun is so bright. The future is so bright. I should have worn shades. I wanted to do this outside, not just because it's a beautiful day, the spot for the 16 maps of how fundraiser campaign video, at least half of it. So I wanted to keep you all on familiar ground. When I say you all, I mean you too. Things as that's how many people are watching right now. Please send a message if there's anything wrong with the sound or the visual, as this is the first time I've done it outside and even on this particular laptop. I'm going to, okay, it's gone up to 7 now. I was going to say I'm going to preamble a bit until more people show up. I always preamble anyway, but well, I mean particularly consciously preamble while waiting for people to show up, assuming that they will, by filling people in a little bit about the Maps of Hell campaign, in case anyone isn't familiar with it so far. So this is the first week, as is apparent from the title of this YouTube thing. And the target fit £660 UK, plus another 600 for the audiobook. I kept the audiobook extra out of the actual target figure for a couple of reasons. One probably being obvious is that somehow it turned out that those particular numbers were in the final figure, and I didn't particularly want to telegraph that fact. The other being that even whether or not I make enough for an audiobook, this campaign will be successful and the book will be published. It's looking pretty good so far. We're at, let's see exactly, 3,000. Wait, no, this is, it's behind. So I have to have to refresh. Freudian slip there. It is at £3,120.71. So it's a little bit over the halfway mark, and that's in 1 week. If I was a different personality trait, I would now go, woohoo! And I was feeling like that on the first couple of days. I really was very pleased and also very relieved. I noticed that it was only maybe the night before I launched the campaign, which was on May Day, possibly in the morning before checking emails, where it occurred to me, well, what if this is a flop? What if I go through the experience that I've had so many times before of reaching out for assistance and not receiving it, not receiving validation? Oh God, it's going to be terrible. And it's quite remarkable in itself that I didn't feel that or think that in the weeks leading up to the campaign, because I just knew I was going to do it. And it was only in those last few hours I began to wonder, oh, I hope this is the right thing. So something has changed, I'd say. Anyway, that was just a bit of personal psychology there. I said I was going to just refresh, and I doubt if anyone watching this isn't familiar with this campaign. The link is down in the notes below the video. I'll just mention a few things, I suppose, while at the same time reintroducing it. I started the description of the book with a quote from a literary agent who I approached on the recommendation of another author who in fact will be the next Limitless podcast on Saturday, who's a very respected and respectable writer, but pretty edgy and marginal as well. Definitely nowhere near the mainstream and quite controversial in his own way. So there was some hope that his agent would be compatible with my own thing, particularly seeing as this author that I'm talking to for the next Liminalist was very keen about my description of the book. Anyway, so the response he gave is the one I quoted at the campaign page. Working on your book would be an act of biting the hand that feeds me at the moment. I think that one would be asking a publisher to bite the hand that feeds them by publishing a book that takes on a system they are invested in. Or, if your theory is true, they would give you an advance, then bury your book to protect their fellow media mafia. I said to this agent afterwards, well, thanks a lot. It really is refreshing to finally get a fully honest rejection. What I saw as fully honest, maybe it's not fully honest, but relatively honest, as in usually at best not for us. Maybe it's a bit more honest, don't see any money in this, to quote F. Murray Abraham from Inside Llewyn Davis. But to be as direct as that your book is simply too subversive and runs counter to my interests as an agent and counter to the interests of publishers, was good to know. It was good to hear. And one of the first insights I had within this past week of doing this campaign has been how much more meaningful it is to me to get the validation or the support and or the approval, the green light, is what I'm talking about here, from readers and listeners than from a publisher or an agent. Maybe it's cumulative, and it's kind of like something that's building as opposed to just a single yes, but there's a lot more to it. And how I put it, I think I tweeted about it, was that the validation that comes from community is worth far more than the validation that comes from industry. And maybe there's a kernel of something in that. It's also close to the subject that I talk about with Kunstler on the next podcast, which is the relation between community relations, community service, a load of terms that office here called community services, and they don't generally serve the community very well. But anyway, service to one's community and success in business. Like, what is the relationship there? Have we lost it? So I do see this in a wider sense. This campaign is a experiment in that area of research and an opportunity to test it and put it into practice, like working together with a community. So just gonna check 11 people, so it's not very many people. It was a lot more last time for some reason. Maybe the subject matter was of more interest this time. I should check also, I forgot to check if there are any comments, because who's watching, who's listening, I don't know. If there's anyone who's not familiar with the campaign, let me know, because that will give me a point of reference. Probably can't actually stay out here definitely not indefinitely, but that long, because it's actually remarkably hot today. So anyway, yeah, so the basics of this campaign is to create a limited run of Maps of Hell. Now, of course, this isn't the book itself. This is just a mock-up using a book that is the template for Maps of Hell in terms of the font and formatting, and not the design, because my wife's doing the actual design, but the internal design, the look, the layout and whatnot. Also, more or less the size, although my book is going to be bigger than this. It's about 100 page bigger, I think 600 pages or something like that. Actually, and probably won't be a hardback, although it's possible. It's possible if we go over significantly over the figure and I extend the print run, then I'll extend it into hardback as well. So yes, the idea is to make this as beautiful and as substantial a product as possible, because for me that's very much the real satisfaction of publishing a book is publishing a book. It's turning ephemeral thoughts, research, data points, philosophical inquiries, insights, personal history, uh, revelatory, social, uh, exposure, whatever, social, exposing the underlay of society, all of these things that I'm working on and working out, a lot of it with my wife, with other people come on the podcast, um, eventually gives form to a book, and that eventually becomes a physical object, and that's the final, that's the conception, or that's the birth rather, that's the birth of the thing that's been conceived however long ago. In the case of Maps of Hell, it was the conception was the Psychological Operatives in Hollywood series at the blog a couple of years ago now, which I think ran about 5 essays, 5 installments, and I always felt that it was a very strong piece and that it had the possibility to expand. Little did I know how much it would expand. So anyway, creating the book itself, doing it as well as it possibly can be done, so that the finished product meets my satisfaction in every way. Of course, doing it myself potentially increases the chances of that. If there's any way in which it doesn't meet those standards, I've only got myself to blame for that. And then there's the element of having a more direct interface with readers, so that those who order the book order it directly from myself and will receive, at least with the first 100 anyway, it'll be numbered and personally inscribed to you, the what's the word, investor, the early adopter, and packaged and parceled out by me, mailed out by me. So it's obviously, and there's a tactile thing there. The book you receive has been in the hands of the author, and it's pretty much as close to a direct exchange as one can get with under these circumstances, and completely leaving Amazon out, which is literally a thing, but also metaphorically. I think we probably all know what Amazon symbolizes in today's day and age. It's the new jungle, isn't it? Cut down all those trees, create all those books. I wonder if that was conscious in there, if they were thinking Amazon's going to be mostly books. Haha, let's make a little sinister, elitist in-joke there, because we're the guys who have dinner parties and eat species that are almost extinct, because we get off on that kind of thing. So let's mass produce books and sell them in a way that's never been done before, so we can completely destroy the Amazon forest once and for all. I don't know if actually books come from the Amazon forest, they probably don't, but still, you can see there's a bit of a metaphor in that. So what else? For those who don't know already, there are 6 options, and the last 4, option 3, 4, 3, 2, 6, involve receiving copies of the book. I put a disclaimer that this isn't pre-ordering the book, because the book may never get published. Well, that disclaimer still stands, but chances are at this point, we're only a week in, it's a 100-day campaign, and we're halfway there. I think it's not quite in the bag. I mean, I might have to really hustle. Who knows, right? Because this is obviously the easy part, was this first week. Probably 80% of my regular readers and listeners have already contributed. I don't know, of course, but certainly today was the first day. Actually, no, today we got one contribution, so it was almost, because it was a small one and it came later. So I thought today was going to be the first day with no contribution. But anyway, the spike has leveled off, and now we're in danger of flatlining, except I don't feel it's particular danger, because obviously I will redouble my efforts, and you also can help with that. And I mean, this gets me to the meta point I was going to get to, so I suppose I will move on to the deeper stuff now, because I think anyone is likely to show up, probably has shown up to 13 now. It's me and 12. No comments. This is about alliances. Like, what does it mean to forge alliances? Because I mean, one of the things I was aware of, have been aware of from the start with this campaign, was, well, who am I going to reach out to for support? So I'll use an example, make it easy. Jay Dyer. Should I tweet Jay Dyer? PM him because he follows me. We follow each other. He's written books about Hollywood and this, that, and the other. He's got lots of followers. He ought to be interested. But I was pretty sure that actually, if I did that, Jay wouldn't retweet anything and wouldn't show any interest, because the exchanges I've had with him so far suggest that he's not particularly interested in me, and maybe in anyone who feels can't actually increase his number of hits. I don't think he's really looking for people he can help support, or fellow kindred spirits. Or if he is, I'm not one of them, and it's mutual. I don't feel that Jay is anything even remotely resembling a kindred spirit, and this is no personal. Anyway, I don't want to get distracted or sidetracked into the point. As to give an example, that it's better not to try and reach out to certain individuals who, although they might be able to support me, A, they probably won't, and B, even if they do, there may be some sort of compromise involved in that for myself, energetically, let's say, psychologically, but even politically or socially. To be endorsed by Jay Dyer, I got that Douglas Rushkoff endorsement for Dark Oasis, and it didn't make a lick's bit of difference. It can't possibly be done because the book hasn't sold anything, and so that was a lesson in itself. And I'm not sure why Douglas gave me that endorsement. I don't know exactly. I mean, it felt very perfunctory. He obviously didn't have time to read it. It was an hour after I'd asked. He must have just skimmed and thought, yeah, I could put my name on this. He'd do me a favor, maybe someday later on down the line. He'll ask me for a favor, kind of, Don Corleone kind of thing. But there may be more of a down. I mean, there was no upside to that, as far as I could see, getting Rushkoff's endorsement, and there may be a downside if it just in terms of, well, if it comes out that Doug Rushkoff isn't really that kosher. He's endorsing. He wrote a graphic novel, Horrifying Crowley. I already knew that when I asked for an endorsement, but anyway. It really may actually reduce my credibility with discerning listeners, and I'm still staying at the surface here. The deeper thing is that this book and this campaign is, in a certain sense, metaphorical, because in a certain sense everything is metaphorical. We're nested in eternity, and we're this temporal focal point or tentacle of eternity that can only enter into the space-time continuum by becoming an avatar of something else, and therefore becoming a metaphor for something else. So take that down a level. What we actually do, that's even deeper into the matrix, is what we do for money, what we do for love, what we do for esteem or status, and so on. Even what we do to survive. These are doings of an avatar, let's say. So always potentially they can further entangle us in the metaphoric system of the world, which is a metaphor for the soul. a mirror and a metaphor for the soul. So really, if I'm honest about this, or if I'm in tune enough, intuitively in tune, then getting your support for this book is more about establishing, deepening, or strengthening connections that already exist through a kind of mutual commitment. Now, they say if you want people to support your thing, get them to support it a little bit. Like if I want people to read this book, it's actually a good way to get people to read it is to get them to follow the campaign and believe in the campaign and support the campaign in some form or another, because then they feel personally involved in the book. And so that can deepen the sense of collaboration and commitment. But on the other hand, or at the same time, by that same token, getting support from people that I don't have a deep connection with, or the potential for that kind of real, true collaborative connection. Skeptico is coming to mind. Like being on Skeptico definitely reached a lot more people than I usually do. But as far as I can tell, there's no affinity there. And so I don't see Alex as any sort of ally, except in this very sort of very mundane sense. He's got a podcast with lots of listeners, and he wants material to interest his listeners, and I want a bit more exposure. So we do a bit of back scratching. But it's not the beginning of a beautiful friendship. So then, is that not whoring and pimping a little bit potentially? Is that not the thin end of the wedge of self-prostituting? I think it certainly can be. I know it can be, and so I think it probably sort of is, at just the thin end. And it's not as though I'm saying that that's immoral or anything like that. Just that in eternity we will reap what we sow, and maybe I don't want a deeper, any sort of connection to everyone. I mean we're all interconnected at some point, but I don't want an eternal connection to the temporary avatar known as ... I'm not going to name any names now, so I've already named more than enough. I don't. May they be forgotten, like drops of water on a sizzling window pane in the noonday sun, along with many other I keep wanting to say non-player characters, but now I really would be getting myself into some trouble. But there's certainly it started out one way, now it's ending up another way, and I'm not meaning to disparage anyone. I'm just talking about finding my soul group, connecting to it, and that I think is the underlying purpose of what I'm doing by communicating, by being a media person, and therefore it's the underlying purpose of this present campaign. So that's all about alliances and what they mean. You know what a real alliance is. It's not just somebody giving somebody else money or a 5-star review or liking their work. It's when collaboration actually begins. Now this campaign is a low-level collaboration. If you support the campaign, you contribute some money to the campaign, please do, by the way. I'm hoping somebody will do this during this meet. 16 people. I'm guessing, it's just a guess, 15 people because one dropped off there. I'm guessing that maybe 5 of the people listening today haven't supported the campaign yet. Could be wrong. Maybe everyone has. So anyway, so then I'm talking sometimes to those, anyone here who hasn't. Well, there's 2 things. One is, if you want this campaign to succeed, then you are supporting it. Because that occurred to me recently too. There's something about goodwill. That's another kind of social institution cliche, isn't it? The goodwill, community service. That is worth more than money, of course, and money can be an expression or a concretization of goodwill, and that's really what I'm talking about. I'd rather not get money if it's not coming with goodwill. in the past, I think people have financially supported me a little bit here and there, and they haven't really got what I'm doing. And they wouldn't really support what I'm doing. It's just that, anyway, obviously these are high standards, but they're also digressions from the main point, which is quality of attention. So, I mean, you're watching this, obviously you're interested in what I'm doing right now, presumably interested in my books, including this latest one, which is, by the way, kind of for people who like my older stuff. It's not about David O'Shaughnessy. He's in there right at the end, but just as a sort of footnote, literally. I mean, I write about David's in the last chapter. David Lynch, the dark, David Byrne, the light-ish, and then Dave gets a footnote for what I consider to be a true artist in a sense that transcends culture. Because the book is a map of hell with a rough sketch of the exit. Maybe it should be rough draft, I don't know. And so, what is the exit? How do we extricate ourselves from the matrix that is popular culture partly? I mean, one aspect of it is popular culture as a delivery device for memes and narratives that tell us who we are when we're not. So Dave O'Shaughnessy comes in there as, I got to give a counterpoint. David Byrne is a sort of bridge. What would it look like if an artist was really tuning into their soul and the soul of others and using artistic expression as a way that did enhance individual souls, even if the industry, the machinery of industry, got hold of it and managed to turn it into another trap? The cheese, put the cheese in the trap. Yeah, we'll get more rats this way, but the cheese is good. So one can, what I tried to do was take the cheese out of the trap without getting snapped. And then let's just look at the cheese and imagine that there was no trap. Imagine that the culture wasn't the way I've just shown it to be in the past 600 pages. This edifice, this empire of imagery, and this edifice of really malevolent possession and narrative transportation into the underworld of the collective sadomasochistic id, as represented by characters like Roman Polanski or Robert Evans or John Huston or Harvey Weinstein or Kevin Spacey. The list is quite long. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, imagining the cheese of Talking Heads and David Byrne without the trap of industry that co-opted it. And one could see there really is a genuine soul exploration going on there that we can benefit from, and this extends to all art and pop culture. Like there's always going to be an element of transmission in there if we can get the cheese without snapping the trap. But most of the time we don't. We get the cheese and we get so gorged on the dopamine, whatever it is, in cheese, we don't even notice that our back's been broken one more time by the device, the delivery device of culture. Anyway, big digression there. I think I was talking about Soul Team and Goodwill. And essentially, this is a fundraiser. There's no reason to be embarrassed by that. It's clean, it's honest. I mean, some money's going to PayPal, which is unfortunate. I'm giving myself as I said, somewhere between 15%, 25% royalties, which is on the average to high size, less than I would get from Amazon. Please note, if I was willing to feed Amazon that beast, then I could get more. But I wouldn't get the book that I want, some beautiful object, and B, I'd be feeding that beast. So yeah, relatively clean, so far as, of course, I can be conscious of my motives. I can't. The book itself, well, I mean, it's there at the site. I don't think I need to talk too much about the book. If you're interested and you don't know what's in there, there's a full table of contents, all 16 chapters and 96 or 100 sections if you count the introductions. Wait, 104 sections even. So yeah, it covers a pretty wide spectrum, but obviously it's a huge subject. So it's by no means comprehensive. It's not an encyclopedia of Hollywood abuses or manipulations, but it's a series of case studies to illustrate that. And it is part of my own extraction process. And I would say probably based on intuitive and reading the signs, it is the capstone of the pyramid that is seen and not seen, Prisoner of Infinity and Vice of Kings. It's a big capstone, might be kind of top heavy with that metaphor. And it is like a synthesis of the three books. It's not as challenging intellectually as Prisoner of Infinity. It's not as confessional as Seen and Not Seen, and it's not as dark as Vice of Kings. So those are all the ways in which it's a bit less than those books, but hopefully less in a way that's more. I think it's more ambitious, actually, in a certain sense, than those books, possibly Prisoner of Infinity, which was so ambitious. I mean, I didn't even know how ambitious that was until I'd finished it. Prisoner of Infinity was a bit like lightning striking in a bottle or something. So I'm not entirely confident about saying that I've matched, much less top Prisoner of Infinity, because maybe I won't ever. There's something about the timing of that. But on the other hand, it's all about Willie Strieber, and so maybe that's kind of lowers the level of energy. Anyway, of course, I can't rate my own book, but I do believe in it. And the reason I feel optimistic that it is the capstone, which is when you can leave, okay, I constructed this thing, and now hopefully people will use it as an orientation device, not to go in and get lost in there, but I'm using the metaphor pyramid now, Graham Hancock style, but as in it's a map to the stars, right? They say the pyramid, all the different dimensions let you know something about the cosmology and the configuration of the human soul as a microcosm for the macrocosm. I don't read that stuff, but that sort of thing. And so theoretically, now this is very theoretical, but those who help supporting this book are helping to complete that thing, and potentially thereby they're helping me to complete a whole phase of my journey. And I very much would appreciate that. I do appreciate all those who have supported me. It's massively appreciated. This is one of the t-shirts. It's the David Byrne one, which of course will be funny and ironic to people who've watched the video, because I first said no to a David Byrne shirt. But that's many husbands will recognize that. You always say no to begin with, but you always end up saying yes. What was I going to say? Well, yeah, so this one is available, actually. So probably about $25 US. It's the first try. I personally, it's not my idea, because it's a transfer and it's quite thick. You see, it's got quite a heavy sort of thing to it. I know Mike B asked for David Byrne t-shirt, so this could be yours, Mike B, if it meets your standards and the yellow suits your style template. I'm thinking about maybe going a different route, silkscreen, but then they'll cost more. This might be about the best we could get for this price, which I believe was totaling in, I'm doing this one cheap, but I think generally like $35 US, including postage. Anyway, so that's also part of the campaign. Pretty cheesy, isn't it? Showing off t-shirts. These are some of the t-shirts that may become future Maps of Hell t-shirts. They're from the thrift store, and I just brought them along to emphasize this is real grassroots, people. These are t-shirts donated off the street by people in our thrift store, It's upcycling, and again, symbolic. I mean, who's to say what's symbolic in a metaphorical universe, right? If we get truly symbolic, we may actually get closer to the archetypal, which is closer to the real. And what's happening here, as I intuit it on this planet, is an energetic configurating of consciousness. I can't say reconfiguring because I don't think it was ever configured. We're not trying, that's the wrong way of putting it, but we're hoping that somehow, through the grace of God, we will begin to configure our consciousnesses individually into a collective, and that will be a very tactile kind of configuration. We will start to connect in tangible ways, sensorially, even if we're not in the same locations, and experience each other as the interior of one another's bodies, empathically, just our states of being, psychologically, emotionally, physically, and thereby establish a connection that does transcend this physical space-time continuum. And so it seems to me that something about, again, the physicality of this, the t-shirts, it's all part of the thrift store, which is also part of the campaign, which is part of my writing, an online thing, which has affected you in whatever way it has, and the physical delivery of the books. Seems like it's a way to actually bring souls together, to start calibrating, tuning devices, so tuning ourselves, getting ourselves into tune by echoing off each other. The spider web on the water glass. So I suppose I'll check my email, see if anyone's donated, because that was the point I didn't finish. Is what I'm hoping that we could see some evidence, some proof that this is working. Yeah, there has been a notification of payment received. Whether that was somebody on YouTube, but it doesn't, in a certain sense, doesn't matter, because it still means it's working, even if there's two. There's been two donations. I think I recognise. One's Isaac Rust. I don't recognise that name, but Juan Escobar, I do feel I recognise that name. So thank you, Isaac and Juan. Your names will go in the Book of Hell. And you have justified this YouTube presentation. Anyone else want to chip in? Now's the time. I'll probably wind up shortly, in about 10 minutes or something. It's getting very hot. I also wanted to say, I mean, this goodwill business. Perhaps a little hard to put into words, but there's something about supporting something that we feel is worthwhile, that is true, that has value, and adding value to it. It's mutually enhancing, it's mutually beneficial. And so money, I mean, money is literally energy, because everything is literally energy. It kind of makes it seem as though everything's the same, but obviously there are different flavors and different effects. And money is energy in a way that's obviously more easier to observe, like food is energy, and the more good food we eat, the more energy we have. Certainly not the more money we have. I mean, Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, these guys do not have energy in any positive sense. They might have a lot of will and ambition and sex drive, probably, but or maybe not. But we talk about life force. Obviously, money isn't life force; it doesn't just turn into life force the way that food does if it's good food. But it is possible to for money to become a vehicle for the life force. I'd say well, not anything, because some things really are just toxic. But I think money, in a certain sense, is quite neutral. I would say that love of money is the root of all evil. It's idolatry. It's not money itself. So where was I going with this? And I guess the subtler thing here, and that money might be a kind of visible demonstration or example of this, is what kind of validation really serves another soul to maximize its potential for expression, as opposed to just inflate its ego, which isn't the soul anyway. Is that goodwill or that money or that affirmation or that energy, is it going into the body and the nervous system, helping it to relax and let go, and therefore bring the soul in to live in the inner angel? Or is it going to the head and ding 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 ding, money 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 money, fame 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 fame, success success, top heavy collapse, right? And it's not as though, although it kind of is either or, it's not as though there isn't a continuum between those two things, because although an inflated ego makes one top heavy and heading for disaster, a healthy ego is the prerequisite for embodiment, for pushing out the false identity, I believe. Because a healthy ego can let go of its attachments, of its needs for validation, for status, for power. It's healthy. So let go of the need to control. So it's not inflated, it's the opposite of inflated. It's like a porous and a rooted, grounded ego, sense of identity. And so it would be the ego body, the body ego, rather than the body mind. Wait, ego ego body rather than the ego mind. Ego just means I am. Right? So in a certain sense, the body does say I am. It just doesn't focus on the I. It focuses on the am. Got a spider on me. We are. So I was getting to a couple of things there. One is that, you know, I've been through a number of attempts to get validation one way or another. And I wouldn't say this is an attempt to get validation. Maybe that's the thing that broke the pattern, because this is just an attempt to get the book published. But then I realized, oh gosh, this is very validating and therefore potentially invalidating. So I do see it as on the continuum with other previous efforts, which might have been consciously an attempt to get this or that project supported, but unconsciously we were very much kind of grabby and clingy. Validate me, validate me. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so it's made this being successful as it has so far, very successful, really unexpectedly so. It's made me very aware, of how it was for myself, you know, my past self, all those past struggles. Like I want to pass down, pay it backward, some of the love that I've been feeling, receiving as a result of this campaign, to those old iterations. Like, it's okay, eventually you'll get it right. And that really extends then to others out there who have tried and failed, or haven't even tried. Not necessarily to go and try, because maybe it's not your thing, but I just wish the same for everyone out there who has wanted some kind of community support, to receive it and know that it is there to be received. So that was one thing. I don't remember what the other thing was now. Oh, I know what it was. Spread the word. Like, there's only 13 of you now. Magic number. But anyway, other people will watch this video when it's up. It's no longer live. It's a dead artifact. If this makes sense, and if you see something in what I'm doing that is unique, that has some particular value that you feel you want to add something to, help it to reach others, then besides contributing financially, think about ways to reach other people who will support it also. So, any podcasts that I should do that you think? I mean, it might be tough because I'm pretty discerning and I haven't reached out to any. The only one I am actually doing is the Hermetics, because he had Maps of Hell for a while and he's just asked me to. And again, I didn't chase that one. I was just hoping. I hope he comes through, and he did. But you know, the usual suspects out there, whether I've done them or not, I'd much rather succeed without them, to be honest. It's back to this alliance thing. I don't want to form temporary alliances to get this off the ground, to get it launched, even though that might be a good thing to happen. But then not really want to develop those alliances any further. Then you could say I've used those people, and they've used me, so it's mutual. It's not as though there's an abuse going on, but it's still, I mean, mutual exploitation isn't really optimal either. One would hope that, like, a true alliance is a friendship. True friendship is an alliance, and it goes the other way too. So, I mean, it might not develop into a friendship, but at least it has that potential. Like Hermetics, Consular Cast, even that guy Mo Bedard, I don't know what happened to him. Felt some affinity with him, not so much. I'm sure there's a couple I'm thinking of course, Doug Lane in the day. The people that I've spoken to for podcasts that I would be quite happy if they came through Hope to put them up, and certainly Airbnb, they could pay money for that, but even, you know, put them up in a friendly way and have dinner with them, kind of thing. And that's that seems to me the acid test. Like, is this an alliance that has that human dimension to it? So just, I don't know, think about it. Think about ways that I could optimize my efficacy as a communicator. And Maps of Hell, 16 Maps of Hell. I'm not catching up with the new title. 16 Maps of Hell, The Unraveling of Hollywood Superculture, with a rough draft of the exit, could reach ears and eyes that currently I haven't reached in a way that would be beneficial to all involved. Because I'm well, I'm not sure how to proceed from this point. I don't actually have to have a plan at this point. As I say, we're way ahead of the game. Actually, it's just a week, so if I wait all the way to August 8th, then I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. So this isn't really about, oh God, we've got to make the target anymore. I don't think. It might be like that 2 months from now if we're still nowhere near it. Right now, I think it would only take about 90 or 80 option 3s, which essentially is pre-ordering the book, and we'd have made the target. So it's not many people at all. Let's just see. 3 more. Another notification. And I mean, learning new tricks is very much what life is about, and not because we want to be more tricky, but because there are going to be. Yeah, so that's Grant Johnson. Thank you for your contribution. That's three for a single broadcast. That's great. Yeah, the new tricks. It's not about expanding one's tool set or magic bag. It's that chances are, if you're born on this planet into this cultural configuration, socio-political hell world, then you've been heavily traumatized, and the result of that, your life force hasn't really made it into the body and all the parts of the body. It's like you don't really have the use of all of your limbs or your digits or your extendable parts or your senses. You're not actually in your senses. And so, of course, our potential is relatively untapped. And one of the ways that we tap our potential is by trying new things. I mean, it's one of the main ways. Main ways is relaxing and living healthy and putting our attention where it's nourished, on sunlight, on people we love, on helping people that we love, on nature, our pets, dressing well, eating well, good food, meaningful work. But there is, I mean, that all of that is hard enough actually, because we have to break lifetimes patterns of addiction and of coping mechanisms, and experience a certain amount of anxiety doing so. And so then that extends into the other aspect about trying out new ways of communicating and of being in the world. And they invariably will entail failure and frustration and anger and disappointment and maybe shame and humiliation, maybe quite a lot of pain, but we're already in pain. I mean, a nervous system that's been shut down by trauma is in unending pain. It's just that the pain that has numbed us out. Alcoholics are in an enormous amount of pain, even if they're laughing madly at the bar. You know that it's laughing that they don't have to cry. So anyway, there's possibly a bit of rationalization there, because if you see me floundering, well, this is a reach for me. I hope I'm always reaching, not in this sense of grasping at straws, but as in extending myself outside my comfort zone. Although, of course, ironically, I'm in the most comfortable environment possible. It's been very quiet today, very nice. I haven't had, except for the dog barking, haven't had any background sound, haven't had any complaints about noise, so I presume I've been coming through reasonably strong. I was just wondering if there's any other points I need to hit here. I think, although it's been a bit all over the place, I think I've covered most of what I want to cover, and yeah, well, it's strange doing this on on YouTube, not knowing who's there and what they want and what brought them here and so on. But I mean, that's part of going outside of my own hunting ground and outside of my own comfort zone. Yeah, I suppose just general point, just as the Cat Stevens song goes, don't be shy. It's in Harold and Maude, about reaching out, about saying what you feel or what you think, or even criticism, as long as I feel it's constructive and well-intended, coming from the right place. I do want to bring everybody aboard, whatever this is that is coming into form now. Obviously, I don't know what it is. It's a party for leaving hell. And, well, like the shepherd with the sheep, or Orpheus with Eurydice, can't leave until every last man is out. Also can't look back, got to just keep moving forward. It's quite a tightrope act, really. I'm trying to stay focused on the exit, while at the same time I'm aware that many people who have discovered me and what I do, they are interested in this world and what's going on in this world, and reaching a deeper understanding of it before committing to leaving it. And I don't mean by dying, because of course dying doesn't take commitment, but leaving one's old life behind does. It takes an unbelievable degree of commitment, and I think inseparable from that is the full recognition that there is nothing for us in this world, that this world has nothing that we want. It's dying with Hollywood. I mean, it's good food, and I'm not talking about the earth and nature. Of course, we need things from nature and other human beings. I'm thinking about the superculture and socio-political system that is the system of the world that Charles Upton calls the system of Antichrist. How much do we need to see of the nature and configuration of the world to fully accept, admit to ourselves that it is the way it is, perhaps irredeemably dysfunctional and destructive, but certainly beyond our powers to redeem it? How much do we need to see that, how fully, before we commit to an unknown life that is beyond the things of this world, and commit to eternity? And I suppose I'm hoping to have reached satiation point in my way. I feel like I have, and to help others to reach satiation point by giving them a 600-page motherfucker of a book about Hollywood that will not have you begging for the sequel. I'm not going to say you'll stop watching Netflix, because I haven't. It's not really that simple at all. But I think there is a deepening appreciation for the alternative, even though it's kind of ineffable, formless, kind of intangible. So I just went into the ineffable there. Okay, well, I think I've exhausted myself, and as I said, it's very hot here. It's the second day of summer, actually. It was summer 2 days ago, and then it went cold and rainy again. It's probably be cold and rainy again tomorrow. So I'm going to wind up. And I will perhaps do another update a week from now. this is enough to update on. If you have any questions, shoot me a line. You can comment at the blog page, the website horticulture.com is linked at this video, or you can just email me, Jason with a U at protonmail.com. Thanks again for those who have sent some love, life force, and financial compensation. Pre-order 16 Maps of Hell, and if you haven't, uh, ask yourself why not, and if you don't have a good answer, then do it. And otherwise, again, even just following along and sending your moral support is very much appreciated. I think it is having an effect. What the outcome will be beside this book and the audio book, I do not know. These are early days, but I'm sure that some of you will let me know. Yes, I'm definitely overheating now. So on that note, I bid you all adieu. Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish soldiers. Farewell and adieu to you ladies of Maine. Sorry, I just mixed that one up for no good reason. That's from Jaws, those who don't know. Alright, sayonara. Till we meet again.